The Silesia Diamond League is stacked. The 3000 meter men's features a host of athletes including Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Yomif Kejelcha, Berihu Aregawi, Salomon Barega, Grant Fisher and many more. What makes this race even more exciting is that Jakob has stated he is going to give Daniel Komen's 28-year-old world record another shot. To do that, he needs to beat a time of 7 minutes 20.67, which is 58.76 seconds per 400 meters. Not an easy feat. According to IAAF score calculators, the world record is almost equivalent to breaking 3:26 in the 1500 meters, a goal Jakob will likely also be chasing in tomorrow's Lausanne Diamond League. In this video, we will try to deduce the most likely outcome of the 3000 meter race, and at the end of the video I will be predicting if Jakob is going to break the world record. I think it's pretty clear that Ingebrigtsen is going into this race as the favourite, and I'm picking him to win. Although the race is stacked, most of these guys are 10k runners, whereas Jakob is more specialised at the 3000 meter distance. And it's going to be a fast one given that the Norwegian has announced his intentions for a world record attempt. So instead of giving the same old reasons we know about why Jakob is most likely to win, I want to focus on what his main threats are and if he has a shot at the world record. Based on last year's performance, his personal best and the speed he has shown in the 5000 meters and the 10,000 meters in tactical races, I see Kejelcha as Jakob's biggest threat. He was very close to beating him last year and may have done so if he did not make the tactical mistake of allowing the Norwegian to take the inside from behind him coming into the last lap. One thing to note about this race is that arguably the top 3 threats to Ingebrigtsen, bar maybe Grant Fisher, all hail from the same country of Ethiopia. Barega, Kejelcha and Aregawi are all incredibly strong runners, with Kejelcha in particular running a 100th of a second to Jakob's 3km PB in last year's Prefontaine Classic. Let's not discount Telehun Bekele as well, who's run a 725.47 PB in the 3000 meters. If they want to have their best chance of winning, the Ethiopians need to work together in the first phase of the race like they did in the 10,000 meter Olympic final, and try to take down Ingebrigtsen, who is their biggest threat. They should not let Jakob take the front because if he does, he will likely run away from the field, especially if he is going at world record pace. If they work together as a unit, they can conserve energy by pacing one another and work together to physically block Jakob from hitting the front in the key moments of the race. They do not need to run at world record pace, just fast enough so that Jakob will be unable to run around them. Of course, the more Ethiopians that team up, the greater the size of the shield they can create will be. As if there's a bigger shield, Jakob will need to run much wider in order to get around them. And if he is forced to run around these guys, he's going to lose crucial energy, which will stop him from running away from the main pack at world record pace, and will also come back to bite him in the final few hundred meters, where he is at his most weakest if he has not been able to take out the pace fast. And given the caliber of athletes we're dealing with, I think this is a feasible strategy. Most of these guys have run within a few seconds of the world record, and will therefore be able to keep a strong pace, especially if they work together. Now I want to make clear that I don't think they're going to do this, given that there tends to be less team tactics and tactics as a whole in non-championship races such as the Diamond League. They may also decide that they don't want to work together. Kejelcha in particular may fancy himself as the favourite amongst the Ethiopians and feel like he has the most to lose by teaming up with the others. Kejelcha may feel that he can take Jakob on his own. After all, he got super close last year. But if the Ethiopians do team up and make a wall to block Ingebrigtsen from hitting the front, then Jakob will be in serious trouble. The only other threat I think we need to keep a sharp eye on is Grant Fisher. He has hit strong form with a double bronze in the 5 and 10k Olympic finals, and has some pace in the final lap as well. He also sports the 3rd fastest personal best in the field with a 725.47 PB. This could be his crowning moment where he goes from being a solid contender for the bronze or silver position to being a genuine prospect for gold. Given how crowded the field is, it's hard to say how well he will actually do, but I think he could achieve a 2nd or 3rd place position. I'm tempted to say he will actually come 2nd, given that Kejelcha has not had the best form in the Olympics, but of course that is just one race. Now on to whether Jakob will actually break the world record for the 3000 meters. Let's first go over the arguments for why he might break the world record. For one, Jakob has been in excellent form this season with a PB in the 1500 meters in Monaco, and has shown rapid improvement since the beginning of the season. Although the Olympics went poorly for him in the 1500 meters, he will be back in his comfort zone in the Diamond League, as there will be paces for the race that he can sit behind. And given his trajectory of improvement over the past few months recovering from an injury, there is definitely an argument to say that he'll be even fitter than before. Another thing to consider is that Jakob already holds the world record in the 2 miles and the 2000 meters, which according to IAAF score calculators are both more impressive times for the respective distances than the world record in the 3000 meter. As you can see, the 3000 meter world record is graded as a 1299 point record, whilst the 2 mile and 2000 meter records are 1304 and 1307 respectively. Whilst of course these times do not directly translate to one another, a score of 1307 would translate to a 719.54, roughly speaking, over a full second under the world record. Therefore, if Jakob has a repeat of his results from last year, and his 1500 meter time suggests he could be in even better form, then there is a strong likelihood of him achieving the world record. Another thing to consider is that whilst we are gauging his form based on his 1500 meter times, Jakob is arguably a better 3000 meter runner, as he has the required combination of the 1500 meter speed and 5000 meter aerobic fitness that the event requires. It is well known that Jakob is not the fastest 1500 meter runner in terms of his raw speed, hence why he is often outkicked in championship races. His fast times largely come from his huge aerobic reserves, which allow him to also excel as a 5000 meter runner. However, he would not be so successful in the 15 if he didn't at least have some raw speed, which will benefit him in the 3K along with his aerobic fitness. Jakob's fastest times have been in between the 1500 meter and 5K distances, and I don't think this is by accident. He's obviously confident in his ability as well, or he would have not announced the world record to be his goal, because that's just adding extra pressure to himself. Now, although there are good reasons to believe Jakob will break the world record, it's not all good news, because there is one factor we will need to consider that could be a deal breaker for Jakob's world record chances. But first, there are a few smaller arguments against him breaking the world record I want to address. For one, we need to consider that he's running in the Silesia Diamond League just a few days beforehand against the Olympic champion Kejelcha. Whilst 1500 meters do not need weeks of recovery like some of the longer distances, Kejelcha's presence in the race means Jakob will likely need to run extremely fast in order to ensure he is not outkicked by Kejelcha once again. There is also talk of him going for the world record in the 1500 meters in that meet, and the attempt of course will tire him out regardless as to whether he achieves it or not. That being said, Jakob ran the third fastest 3000 meter time in history the day after running a 3:43 mile, the second fastest mile in history behind Hicham El Guerrouj. And this was in that Prefontaine Classic last year, so his powers of recovery are clearly very good. Another argument you can put forward as to why Jakob won't get the world record is that he had a pretty much perfect race in Monaco, yet was still unable to come super close to the 1500 world record. The track was fast, he was peaking for the Olympics, the other competitors were not close to beating him, so he could just focus on achieving the time instead of winning the race. And even though he broke his personal best, he didn't come super close to the world record. He was 7/10 of a second off, which may not sound like a lot, but in the 1500 meters, that's not nothing. However, we have already established that Jakob will potentially be even fitter than Monaco and particularly excels in these middle endurance races like the 3000 meters, so there is good reason to believe he will actually do better than last year. I think the second strongest argument against Jakob beating the world record is that he may simply realise his fitness is not quite there yet to keep up with the pace, and may drop off the paces like he did in last year's Prefontaine Classic and focus instead on just winning the race, given how strong the competitors are. This is especially likely when you consider this possibly huge detail. The weather in Silesia is tipped to be a scorching 31 degrees Celsius, or 88 degrees Fahrenheit for my American audience. This could change everything, because of course this means Ingebrigtsen will be expending much more energy just to run at the same pace he normally does. Both his world records, or world bests, you get the point, were achieved in cool 20-degree weather, ideal temperature for any athlete. What makes it annoying as well is the timing, because it feels like the weather is intentionally just trying to screw things up. If the temperature stays around 20 degrees and the weather forecast is wrong, I feel fairly confident in saying that he's going to break the world record. Ultimately, these things are hard to predict, because you never know an athlete's fitness on the day. I feel fairly confident in saying that Jakob will break his personal best in the 3000 meters by around a second. But unfortunately, given the weather, there is a voice inside of me saying that we're going to see another performance like Monaco, where Ingebrigtsen runs very fast but is still a second or so short of the world record. So my final prediction is unfortunately that Jakob Ingebrigtsen will not achieve the world record, but instead come agonizingly close. However, if it turns out the meet does happen during low to mid 20-degree weather, then I do see Jakob breaking the world record. So let's just hope it's a cold day. If you want to see my prediction as to who will win the Silesia Diamond League 1500 meter between Kejelcha and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, then click on this video here. And if you're interested in more racing analysis and breakdowns like these, then feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy training.